My name is Antonio HaileSelassie. I support the agency for Section 508, provide technical guidance. The session's on electronic content and documents. All right, so we have another page, National Application Water Management. There's a bunch of text here. The text relative to Earth Sciences Enterprise, increase our knowledge of the Earth system. And I have this image sitting right beside this paragraph here. So I'm going to go right-click on the image, go down to Size for some reason, and look at my alt text. And there's nothing there. No alternate text. So if I'm running a screen reader, it has no idea that we have alternate text. It has no idea what the image is. As far as it knows, it's decoration. But this apparently has value. So we're going to add some alternate text to that. And we're going to say, I like to give a little bit, kind of associated with where it is in the document. So I might say something, I might reference something directly from the document. So I'm just going to copy and paste ESE and Applications Program. Go back to Size, hit my Alt Text tab, and paste that ESE and Applications Program, put my colon, and then add alternate text. Now, you might ask what the reason for that is. It's because, again, sometimes these images fall to the bottom of the reading order. So if this particular image fell to the bottom of the reading order, a user would still be able to associate it with ESE and Applications Program and then be able to say, okay, what is this image about? It's a map, a flat map of the Earth. Okay? Again, you could add a whole bunch of stuff. You could, yes?
Well, sorry to interrupt. But,
no problem.
If I were writing a paper, that figure or that picture would have a number associated with it. And then beneath it, there would be figure number, colon. And then the alt text would be right there.
Yes.
But you're saying you want to have the alt text with the figure the way you've shown
Okay.
as well.
Okay, I'm going to repeat your question. Basically, you're noting that you can add captions to images, right? Okay. I'm going to get to that in just 1 second.
All right.
Great question. All right, thank you. All right. Now, as far as the alternate text, I could be as descriptive as I want to be. Well, not as I want to be, but descriptive enough to provide the information that this image provides. I could say that, hey, it's labeled, the continents are labeled, the oceans are labeled. I could say that Antarctica is snow-covered. I could say anything. But as an author, really all I need to know is that it's a flat map of the Earth. That's what's important, I found is important.
Wasn't his question, could you just not take the shortcut and use the caption as, just paste the caption in?
Yep. His question was whether or not to do the captions. Yes. And I'm going to show you that. The answer to that is yes. You do not have to use alternate text. You can absolutely use captions instead. Alternate text can generally be better simply because I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why it can be better. But let's do figure 1. Let's go ahead and paste ESE and Applications Program. And we're going to say flat map of the Earth. Again, you as an author can choose whatever you'd like to write to get your point across. But that's what I'm choosing to do. Figure 1, ESE, and Applications Program, flat map of the Earth. And that's my caption. That is actually sufficient for Section 508, to comply with Section 508. In some cases, you may not want to add a caption. An author may just say, hey, I just want a plain image. It takes up too much space to add a caption. There could be a number of different reasons not to add captions. Captions are perfectly fine. I do suggest, although it can be considered redundant, and sometimes that can be annoying to someone using a screen reader, but I do suggest doing both. And the reason for that is because, again, it can fall to the bottom of the reading order. Not only that, Doug pointed this out. If I were to drag this image. Let's take this image and I'm going to move it around a little bit. You notice the caption doesn't follow it. Even though I used Word to programmatically input it, the caption doesn't follow it. It's actually separate. Now, it does place it immediately following the image. So in the reading order, it will immediately follow the image. But once I start moving the image around, or if I move the caption around, now the reading order gets readjusted. Yes?
I publish with AIAA, and they say put your image in a text box with a caption. But you just said don't use a text box.
Well, same reason. That's the best practice. Yes, text box is a good way to do it because it keeps it together.
Right.
Absolutely.
Solves that problem.
Yes, it does solve that problem. Because you'll move the text box, or you'll move the box. You won't move, but if you do move the image, it can also still separate. So, but yes, the text box will keep it together. Again, the text box still can flow to the bottom of the reading order. So you still want some references in your alternate text. So keep that in mind. Captions are absolutely fine. Absolutely. I like to still suggest both. Again, it can be redundant and it can be annoying to some people with disabilities, but I still suggest it simply because it can be more helpful than hurtful. Okay, so we have our alternate text, we have a caption. I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this caption for now because I want to keep it. Clearly, the person who created the document wanted it like this for some reason, so I'm going to keep the formatting and I'm just going to add the alternate text and that should be sufficient. Here we have SWOT, soil, water assessment tool, and then we have some email addresses, some addresses here, some telephone numbers. As you can see, it's not a click here or mail to. If you want to mail, it's a fully qualified URL, email address. So that is fine. That page, we're on page 3 now. And we have a table. Okay. We have a table for water management funding fiscal year 2004 to fiscal year 08. Now, you can't really tell it's a table, but it's definitely a data table. You can definitely see the data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust some styling a little bit so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to add some borders. Just to explain what I'm doing here, I'm going to right-click on the table, go to my option for borders and shading, click on all, and hit OK, and it should show me how this table is kind of broken down. Remember I told you about complex headers? We want to kind of avoid complex headers. In this case, we have what would be perceived as a complex header. Now, if you look at budget for water management in thousands of dollars, it's actually the first line, the first row on the table. It looks like a simple notation. You know, there's really no reason to put that in the table. I mean, now it could be important to put a header for that, and that's fine, you can. But when I'm looking at this, all I see is really a notation. The budget for water management is in thousands of dollars. You can put that pretty much anywhere near the table. Now, if you want it in the table in some way, you can certainly do that. You have that option. Again, just recognize there will be some additional remediation that you need to do. All right, and then we have fiscal year 2004, 2005. And when you're looking at this, if it wasn't for the fact that it's at the top of the page, it's really hard to say. I'm removing the border and shading for a moment. It's really hard to tell that, for one, it's in the table, and two, to tell what the headers are at all. Or even if it wasn't for the numbers alone and maybe some of the formatting, it's hard to really tell where the numbers start. And the way it's broken down into several different levels, it's kind of a complicated table, really. One last thing I wanted to show you, going back to my borders and shading, putting the borders back. All right, my borders are back on. If you look at your row headers off to this left here, Some of the row headers are across two columns. They have two columns width. I actually believe that these were removed using the draw pencil. They just removed the line because they don't look like merged cells to me. I don't know how they actually produced it, but I believe they just eliminated but the information is really broken up. Even this one here, if you look, facilities investment for 1 kilometer and higher resolution, why can't that just be in one cell? Why does that need to be broken across two cells? And then you have a space in between. So we're just going to also, if you look, we have some information in color. At the bottom, we have a notation that says values in yellow to be removed. So we have some things highlighted in yellow that are going to be removed. I'll admit to adding this to the document, so just so I can show you what to do. All right, so we have a bad table. That's what I was trying to show you. And I'm going to show you how to do this better. I actually have a table down there, but first step is to create a table, a table that is organized and easy to format. And the way you do that is you're going to insert from your menu, click on Table, and this is the feature that, what's your name again? Scott was mentioning, where you can drag and you can have up to a 10 by 8 table just by dragging from the top. You can choose how many rows you want, and if you notice, the table is actually forming in the center of the page. Well, there you go, it formed for me. Somehow I came off of it. And that's the table, but that's not the size table we want. So we're going to delete that. And we're going to try again. We're going to go Insert Table, and we're going to go to Insert Table. Again, here's that draw feature. That's a big no-no. Just think of a big stop sign whenever you see that. All right, and then we have a little pop-up that gives us where we can select the number of columns and the number of rows. In this case, I need 6 columns, and I'm going to need 16 rows. And I'm just going to put that information in, hit OK, and it gives me my table. So I'm creating a table. All I now have to do is put in the data. All right. Now I've already created the table, and I've already put in the data. So we're going to go ahead and remove this, and we're going to show you that table and show you what I did differently and how I would do it differently so that it was more accessible. As you see, I took out budget for water management in thousands of dollars and sort of made it a notation at the beginning of the document so that they know that any data is in thousands of dollars. We have a single row of column headers. That's all we really needed. We have fiscal year 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. And then we have our row headers off to the left. And if you notice, I went ahead and combined facilities investment for 1 kilometer and higher into one row header. And my information is all organized and easily formatted. So that's the first step. Now, the technical standards say that row headers need to be clearly identifiable. All right? So we need to go ahead and make these row headers identifiable. The first thing we need to do is change the styling. Remember we said at least bold of some sort? I'm going to actually use these styles here. There's a lot of style options on the Home tab. I'm just going to use a style. So let me, let's see what we got here. We've got heading 1, heading 2. I'm going to just use this strong temporarily. And now all my headers are bold. I can clearly identify my headers visually, as opposed to before when all the numbers and letters were the same font. I'm going to do the same thing for my row headers, and I could use a different font. Actually, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to rename this. Instead of strong, I'm going to rename it table header. Okay? And you see it shows up right there as table header. Now, this is not something I have to do, but this is something I'm choosing to do in terms of renaming it.
I'm just a little confused now.
Sure.
You are document that was produced and you're modifying it
Mhm.
so that it will, so that the reader can handle it better?
Mhm. I'm actually reproducing it.
But when we did if we were doing our own document, we would format it.
You'd want to start from the beginning, yeah,
Yeah,
with your data. You want to start with the insert table. If you know what type of information you want to start with the insert table. But as you're going, this is important that you can put in all the data you want and then style it later if you'd like. Or you can style it as you go. You have that
Well,
option.
how is the reader, I guess what I don't understand is how the reader understands this reformatted information. You put things in bold or you've identified, and so,
Yep.
so what is when the reader gets to this, what does it start to think?
As of right now, it's not thinking anything. You're talking about a screen reader, right? What does a screen reader see when it sees this? Right now, it's not really seeing much except text. It will see that it's bold. It'll be able to tell some of the styling. And of course, it depends on the screen reader. Some screen readers are more robust than others. But it should be able to tell that the headers are in bold, some type of bold lettering. It may be able to tell that the style is table header. But right now, that's all it sees, text. And it's going from left to right across. That's all it sees. And even visually,
This is like for the sighted person, this is much better.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Significantly better just for a sighted person or even people with other disabilities. Yes. All right. So that's the first step. So we've made our headers a little more clear. We've organized our information and data to a more organized and readable format. Now this is where we're going to now programmatically expose the headers to a screen reader. This is a really cool feature that people don't realize is here. But what we're going to do is highlight the first row, which is our column headers. We're going to right-click on the row, and we're going to go to Table Properties. And under Table Properties is a tab for Row. We're going to click on Row. And if you look here, there's this checkbox that says Repeat as Header Row at the top of each page. That means I'm going to take that row and repeat it as a header row at the top of each page. As far as Word is concerned, if the table goes across multiple pages, like for example, it's a very long table and it goes to the next page, it's going to actually repeat the row header. But additionally, it defines that as the header of the table. So, and that's going to be extremely useful when we convert to PDF. Exceptionally useful when we convert to PDF. Because now the operating system understands that this is the software now knows that this is a table header row. Now you cannot do that with your columns in Word. With your row headers in Word. At least not yet. So we can't do that. We can't mark those as headers, the information on the left. But at the very least, now you have your column headers clearly defined. In many cases, that may be all you need, or even all you want. Sometimes you may not want to define row headers. Okay, so our table is formatted for accessibility now. There's one last thing that we have to fix, and that's this color issue. We have a few values, a few rows that are highlighted in yellow, and at the bottom we have this notation, values in yellow to be removed. In this notation, we actually already have an asterisk there, so why don't we use the asterisk as a textual notation? And instead of saying values in yellow, let's just say values with asterisk to be removed. That way, you're referencing a textual notation versus a color notation. You follow that? Okay. And now we should be fine. Our table should be ready to be transferred over to a PDF document. That's our last everything we needed to do on this document. Let's make sure our tables. I'm actually going to take over the original table, the bad table, into a PDF so you can see the difference once we make it a PDF. But we've done everything we needed to do. Let's just recap really quickly. We added some alternate text to the NASA logo. We added some alternate text to our Earth on the first page. We added alternate text and played around with captioning for the image on the second page. We double-checked for fully qualified URLs on the third page. And we identified our table headers and adjusted for and added textual notations for some color notations here in exchange for color notations. Again, the highlighting is fine. You can choose highlighting. Just keep in mind the contrast differences. I mean, you don't want to use some color that kind of washes out the text. Just keep that in mind as well. Again, not necessarily Section 508 specifically, but you want to make sure there's no standard specifically for that. All right.